One Mississippi. Two Mississippi. This video is actually going to get to start from the beginning, unlike the last video. So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Easy Reefers channel, I think. I can't see any logical reason to care anymore. So I just had another automatically starting live stream while my phone was turned off and sitting in my couch. That's fascinating. But we're going to try not to dwell on that today. Today we're going to talk about Blexit. Maybe not. Maybe not. Have you heard about Blexit? I just heard about Blexit. Just saw a little news article scroll through all their website postings and shit. Bunch of black people with Make America Great Again hats on. Blexit apparently is all the material from Blacktivist pasted over to a new website that isn't, obviously registered in Russia. I'm sure they found enough American crackpots by now. With the motherfucker parading around in his jammies in the Oval Office and whatnot. The shame of it. Don't worry, they keep all the hookers in New Jersey. I don't know where they keep all their corpses, though. Oh, Blexit. I thought about just making that the whole video. Just start the video. Blexit. Thank you and good night. Blexit happens to be all their little factoids. Happen to be perfect examples of the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Like, it is knowledge that a Republican freed the slaves. It is basic wisdom that today's Republicans don't get to talk about that shit. They have nothing in common with Abraham Lincoln. Nothing. Nothing. It is knowledge that the Democrats, or that the KKK was founded by people who were apparently registered Democrats. It is wisdom that there are no fucking Democrats today that are in the fucking KKK. Just wisdom. Democrats do not fuck around with the KKK. It's the Republicans who are affiliated with, who cozy up to, who have basically been taken over by the KKK. That's wisdom. See, sometimes knowledge and wisdom conflicts because sometimes knowledge is bullshit. And wisdom is basically someone's ability to not be bullshitted. Now, you see, it's said that, or at least it used to be said, I don't know if it's something in the millennial vocabulary. It used to be said that a man who professes his own wisdom is not wise, or cannot be wise. I just want to call bullshit on that right there. That seems like the mantra of an oppressor. That seems like people who don't have much wisdom. Seems like something they would do to, say, to comfort themselves. Oh, well, I'll just keep on learning what I learned in school then. Because I can't be wise, because I can't say that I'm wise if I'm wise, because then I'm not wise. That's a fucking paradox. Who but a wise man would know that they are wise in a world full of idiots? Tell him, Dingo. He's just sniffling, snarling. Anyways. Here's wisdom for you. Knowledge.
More investment solutions. One focus.
That's not knowledge, that's an advertisement. Knowledge says that this guy gets in a wreck because of a fight. Well, if you look at that clip a couple times, wisdom tells you that ain't the first that bitch has encountered him. Probably his ex-old lady. Bitch, I will drive this bus off this bridge. And then she hit him. And then he drove the bus off the fucking bridge. That is a man who has had enough of that bitch. That could not have started just then. Motherfucker drove the bus off the bridge. Either they had a hell of a history, or that must have been a hell of a route. Like Beach Nut in Houston. Okay. So, it seems I might have been glitched out of viewership today. Oh well. They seem to have glitched me out of the shit that I wanted to say specifically about wisdom. And then I'd like to try to remember what the hell it was. Then I'd like to discuss some wisdom and whether or not it should be considered wisdom. How obvious is it that it's wisdom? Because if it's wisdom, then it should be adhered to. You know, one would think. Dingo, you've been quiet for hours. I know, because I passed out on the couch. You were dead silent. Don't look at me with that tone of face. Anyway. Leadership. No. Wisdom. Almost as pretentious. Possibly more. But to consider whether or not someone who professes wisdom is wise, I suggest someone without wisdom should at the very least define the word. You see, in that pretense of the would-be dismisser, they're basically experiencing a how do you say a pre-programmed response. They're triggered, right? Says he's wise. Can't be wise. Doesn't make any fucking sense when you actually consider the definition of the word wisdom, or what it is to be wise to something, to be wise about something, to be wise regarding something. Well, if you just say it in that generic of a term, wise regarding something, it's not that implicative. But when you say wise to something, you're wise to what I'm wise to, aren't you? It's pretty obvious what that's implying. Somebody's been bullshitting you, and you're wise to it now. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me, we won't get fooled again. Fuck is my thumb black for? A little off-roading last night. Fuck with the power steering. Oh. My teeth look extra brown, or is it just shade? Oh, it's just shade. Okay. Shade on the teeth makes them look brown. You look like fucking... I look like a true country boy now. Sorry. No making faces in the camera, Sean. It's a video that like real people are gonna see and shit. Fancy that. Have you become wise to me yet? I don't think there's much to become wise to. I'm just a blatantly obvious moron. With no self-deprecating sense of irony whatsoever. Great Britain chick for life, is it? Well, top of the morning to you, Governor. Or it should be fucking late afternoon for you by now. I have not been to the Isles in this lifetime. Managed to make it to New Zealand and Australia. But I've never even fucking been to the East Coast. But that's okay. Because I've seen a lot of Monty Python and Daily Show with Jon Stewart. So I know all about the East Coast and Great Britain. Yeah. Yeah, that's why. Yeah. So we have a almost southerner. That's what we call y'all down here in Louisiana. Y'all almost southerners. Y'all ain't quite southern enough for us. I live in the lovely, not weird sounding town at all of Slaughter. Yep, that's the town I live in. Slaughter, Louisiana. Also known as the place a horror movie is waiting to be filmed. Don't worry, there's no road signs that let you know when you get into Slaughter. Because if there were, you'd just see a look of panic come over everybody's face as they... We're about to be in a horror movie. Did you imagine driving through the fucking country? And I mean, this is country. I'm from New Orleans. This is country. Like, you go to East Jesus and hop on a bus and then just past Bumfuck, you find this particular neck of the swamp. And little bitty roads winding through a bunch of fucking woods, swamps, and bridges, and more woods. A little town with a red light, and more woods, swamps, and bridges and shit. And if you were to pass a sign that said Slaughter, and then your car broke down, you'd die of a heart attack right there on the spot. Anyways. So, speaking of dying of a heart attack right there on the spot, I want to show you something that I find truly horrifying. Oh my God! There's only one cigarette left. So I'm just going to put that over there. And I'm sorry if you're wearing headphones or something. How am I going to overlook you if you're high? I'd have to stand on my tippy toes. My kids would have laughed at that. You probably shouldn't. You're an adult. Don't laugh at that. It's not funny. Stop laughing. Okay. I keep looking over for something to smoke. And that's all there is. Oh, wait. There's that. That it is. Anyway. Wisdom. Well, it's knowledge. Smoking's bad for you, right? Of course it is. Depending on what you smoke and how you smoke it. Depending on why you smoke it. And of course, how much you smoke. Now, is smoking, say, worse for you than living in downtown Baton Rouge? I need a cigarette, just get some fucking fresh air down there. They should just sell cigarettes without the tobacco. Just some filters. I need to breathe. You know, in all the debate about smoking, and all the debate about whether or not people can say whether a cigarette's a light cigarette or not, and how big should the warning label be? What should the warning label say? Nobody ever fucking noticed that every other cigarette but Camel and American Spirit come with fucking fiberglass filters. Now, let's say I was a moron who didn't smoke other types of herbs that are natural expectorates that help me rid my lungs of both the black mold problem I have in this busted ass fucking bullshit leaky ass house, and as well as the tar from the cigarette smoke. So I maintain very good lung capacity. I'm not a easily winded person at all, and it hasn't been that long since I've had a lung x-ray, and my lungs are fucking clear. The only thing they had to say about my lungs is that they're hyperinflated. Oh, yeah, I wonder why. Between the extreme breath holding that I used to do at the bottom of a pool and the extreme long note holding I used to do singing for fun just to fucking show off because of how big my lungs had gotten from the swimming shit. You know, I do like 4 bars past the end of Don't Cry. I've done it on the channel while playing the guitar. Yeah. My lungs are just fucking fine. But if I wanted to switch to Marlboros like I used to smoke when I was a little kid, fiberglass filters, and then not do what I do with taking the lighter and going across the end of the pack, back and forth, until I seal in the ends of all the filters. If I didn't do any of that, if I just smoked fucking shredded up fiberglass rolled into a paper ball, paper cylinder. Sorry, I get my balls and cylinders confused. It's a reproductive problem, I know. But if I were to do that, no one could still accuse me of being unwise. Or at least they'd have a hell of a debate on their hands. Because I lack a fear of death to a disturbing level. I have to think of logical reasons, people that need me to be alive. Shit I have to do. Oh yeah, fish tanks, oh yeah. Can't take those with me. I'm enjoying those for the time being. Gonna hold on to the fish tanks. Don't die today. Good idea. But when it all comes down to it, I suffer from a disease I like to call hyper-awareness. And you'd have a very hard time convincing me that this is a world I would want to live to old age in. The way things are going, the way people are treating both it and each other. How fucking long do you think someone who remembers being in the underworld, who remembers their past lives as clearly as I do, how long do you think I would really want to stick around? I was just thinking about it. Makes me want to fuck another cigarette. Wisdom. You know, I do a lot of car analogies because I'm a car guy. Well, I'll do a fish tank analogy this time. You know, you can do a lot of research. Watch a lot of very helpful YouTube videos. Very informational, instructional guys like Mark Levinson. Here to help you set up your reef tank. But be prepared, because you're about to experience the difference between knowledge and wisdom as your whole life is tested by the ownership of a saltwater fish tank. Because essentially, the knowledge that you can gain and apply towards setting up a reef aquarium only goes so far as your ability to analyze and learn from different cause and effect situations. And someone who hasn't gained wisdom over time by observing patterns in their lives isn't even going to have the fucking wherewithal it takes to observe the patterns that develop while keeping a reef aquarium. Mr. Conway, top of the morning to you, sir. I still haven't fucking slept. I was gonna sleep. So close to sleeping. And I don't know what happened. I was considering sleeping and then making the live stream. And then I picked up my phone to, I don't know, see if my wife had messaged me back again or messaged my wife again or something. And YouTube had been fucking live streaming for 10 minutes for pissed off if I know the reason. So, knowledge. Cigarettes are bad. Wisdom. Herbal expectorants and cotton filters make cigarettes not as bad for you. If you have PTSD like me. Sorry. Was that a little too intense for you? PTSD can be that way. PTSD probably can too, but I'm not sure what it is. Sounds intense. Post-traumatic stress. Bulgarians. That's when you come back from the war and want fucking coffee so strong it can kill a horse. Because that is the only experience I've had with Bulgarians. I'm sorry. If you don't know that Bulgarians like really fucking strong coffee, you have not met a Bulgarian, my friend. What was that kid's name? Kid. He was fucking huge. I was a kid back then. He was dating my older sister. Benny. Probably wasn't his real name. Call me Benny. Call me Benny. Like, please don't stop smiling, because you'd be really scary if you did. Oh, took a sip of that coffee. About 20, 30 minutes later, took another sip of the coffee. The flavor was still there. I was still taking the first fucking sip. Good coffee. You see, in New Orleans, we have a saying: if the spoon stands up in the coffee, it's strong enough. Or if you have a cup of coffee on a saucer and you lift the saucer 6 inches, turn the saucer upside down, and what falls out does not break the saucer, coffee could be a little stronger. But that's not wisdom. That's just silly. And speaking of silly, it's time for the next one of these silly fuckers. See, I'm going to get rid of all these while I'm on the live stream. And that nice whole cigarette I'm going to enjoy before I fucking take my nap. Or I'll smoke it while I drive to the store and get more. But what is wisdom, anyways? I mean, you don't have to be hyper aware to have wisdom. It helps. Wisdom is a lot to do with seeing patterns. When you learn from the pattern what is beneath the surface in things. When you learn shit that nobody told you, but it's obvious. Like your fish tanks, it's more about an experience of applying a wise frame of mind and a wise way of analyzing things and gaining wisdom through observation and learning the feel of an ecosystem and coming to understand how the biological processes balance out. And due to lack of two-part solution, my biological processes haven't been balancing out all that well. Calerpa madness in there. Uni has been put with Yumachika. And, oh look, a piece of Kenya tree is sitting in the middle of the Hollywood Stunner. Wonder how the hell that happened. Anyways. But yeah. A little red algae problem going there. Because been slacking on the water changes. I'm not trying to exhaust my salt every fucking 2 weeks. Going through a bag of salt every 2 weeks is a bit much, and I can't exactly buy buckets around here because where the fuck would I put one? But you know, wisdom. Just wisdom would tell me use a little bit at a time. Knowledge would tell me read the instructions and do what that says until it runs out, and then you can't buy anymore. I'm gonna go with wisdom. Get my little bit of cyano showing up, but I don't have any problems with coral right now. In fact, the Turbinaria is a good candidate for a poorer environment SPS because it's actually finally attached to that rock that it's been falling off of for a year and a half now. It finally attached itself. I was in there cleaning the caulerpa around it, and it did not move a bit. I was yanking caulerpa from underneath it. It is on there. And I can see right now, it's got a white rim to it. It is growing. It's the yellow Turbinaria. Looks just like Manipura, only it's perfectly happy sideways, which is cool. Now the instructions, knowledge would have told me you got to do a water change this often, this often, this often. But sometimes wisdom is about combining knowledge. Sometimes wisdom is about combining observation. Sometimes wisdom is about taking knowledge from multiple sources and then going and fucking observing the shit for yourself and figuring out, who's right? Can I do better? The chances are, if two people are disagreeing with something, the best solution hasn't been found. That would be wisdom. But now, cars, definitely another good example, because when you're not someone with perfect credit, had good parents who taught you how to go buy a car, you think. They don't really know how to buy cars, they just go and pay sticker. Salesmen are very happy with that, but anyway. They don't ever actually have to gain any wisdom because they don't ever suffer any consequences. People in the upper middle class income brackets with good credit scores, they're usually traded in a car that's 3 and 4 years old. If I hit the lottery, $500 billion, you would never see me in a brand new car, for starters. And if I did see Honda come out with a car that I just had to have right then, you'd never see me trade it in. It's good knowledge, right? It's knowledgeable. Logically, it makes sense to trade in a car. Before the value goes down too much, before the maintenance gets too high, right? You want to have good value. You want good trade-in value so you can get a good deal on your next new self-indulgence. You know what it takes to make a car? about 1/25 of a mountain. Not a big mountain. Not necessarily a nice mountain, depending on who you ask. I drive a 1993 Honda Accord, and chances are it can whoop your car's ass. And I am perfectly content to drive a car of such vintage that doesn't have the motor that I happen to have in mind, but the guy who sold me that car fucking stole it and blew up the motor, so I needed a new one. It was a matter of a couple of $100 to say, I'm not going to put an Accord motor in. I'm going to put a Prelude VTEC motor in. It bolted right in. Has the same exact motor mounts, same exact axle diameters, everything. Same exact ECU plugs. Now, knowledge would have told most people, get you a nice low mileage motor for that car. I got one from a car that's a few hundred pounds heavier, that's still got the same 31 miles to the gallon in that heavier car. So in my lighter car, with my giant front tires and rims, I have O2 Accord rims, and I have CRV tires because it's a fucking gravel runner. I get great gas mileage. And I finally tested those new tires that I just experimented with, putting those giant fucking donut looking tires on there. They look really good because they actually like close up the wheel gap. They don't rub, not even at max turn. But in a little light Honda, you don't want to stop really fast when it's slippery and wet outside. And that car already doesn't have the best of brakes. It's got drums in the back, and they're desperately in need of maintenance. But that thing set down and stopped flawlessly. There was leaves and shit. I was ready for it to skid a little. I was just, yeah, I could still make it if it skids. I'm ready for, and it's just, you know, I'm behaving myself today. Thank you. This is how this turn is going to happen. That's a good fucking little car, man. But I feel like it's kind of a reward for being responsible when it all comes down to it. It's not a manly thing, okay? You're not going to convince most men in the South that your little Honda Accord is cool, okay? I'll see him in my fucking rearview mirror, but it's not a thing that you're gonna get a bunch of thumbs up from people like a Mustang or a Chevelle or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Camaros and all that stuff. And most people who run Civics and imports and stuff like that, they don't give a fuck about my little old 93 Honda Accord. But you know what? If I was to buy a new car, and some moron, and very likely some moron would get that car. First of all, most people don't drive as good as me, so their safety would be at stake. That car does not have curtain airbags. It does not have any modern safety features. It does not have ABS. Okay? You're looking for safety features, find another car. But when it comes down to it, any person who's physically capable, mentally capable, has the aptitude, should get themselves one good car and stick with it. Make it what the fuck you want it to be. When you're a teenager, when you're learning how to drive, that's when the disposable new car with all the airbags should be used. Okay? And hopefully some of them make it and become people's favorite cars later. But after people really get their bearings, mid-20s, early 30s, and can just really just kind of drive on instinct, you need to find out what makes you really happy in a car and either build it yourself or find someone to build it for you. And you can find a shell with a blown motor. Get yourself a motor from Japan or one built here if it's an American car. But you can get basically something that will outperform a new car, have much cheaper insurance and maintenance, and best of all, it didn't have to blow up a 25th of a mountain. We don't need to be buying new shit over and over again. We need to make shit that lasts. Because a mountain give its life for our shit. And by a mountain, I don't mean the rocks. I mean everything that lives on the mountain. Wonder how many undiscovered ancestral sites of various cultures in various regions and in various time frames. I wonder how many were obliterated before they were ever discovered because somebody found aluminium there. Now, when it comes to buying a car, knowledge versus wisdom is everything. Now, you can go on, why do I want to say NAFTA? NADA. You can go on Kelley Blue Book. NAFTA. You go on NAFTA and look up the value of your car in Mexico. Wait, no. You can go on NADA. You can go on all the different automotive buy cars, cheaper, cars.com, Auto Trader. And you can you can probably get yourself a good deal on a car. Probably. But you know what? You might not have never considered. Thanks to those websites, um, new car sales has become a minimum wage job. Now, knowledge might tell you how to get a good deal on a car, might not. But wisdom would help you get a fair deal on a car. And now, knowledge, hearing somebody got a good deal on a car somewhere. Yeah. Maybe they're cousins with the guy. Maybe they get kickbacks. You don't know. Maybe they got a friend that works there. Tell everybody. And you might go there one time. Small town, small car lots, new customers might get great deals. And then they get a handle of your credit situation and your potential as far as income goes, and you ain't moving nowhere else, and nobody else is going to give them a car. Let's give them this piece of shit we can't get rid of. Your knowledge got you in trouble because you lack the wisdom. In this case, to properly inspect a vehicle. Bring a mechanic with you. Make sure they ain't the other guy's cousin. Proper test drive is important. Knowledge that the Cold War is over. It might even be knowledge that a new Cold War has emerged. But it is wisdom that the Cold War has never ended. Dingo! You know, it's knowledge that for the past 500 years of the recorded history that we have, and we think that recorded history should only go back 500 years or so, basically. Christians have been kind of dicks. A lot of them. A lot of them. A lot of dicks. I mean, sorry. I was thinking of my mother. What? 37. Dingo! Cut it out. You're messing up my concentration. On lots and lots of dicks. What? Oh, that's not helping. Yeah, good. Come back here. Yeah. Lay down. You already got fed and watered and taken outside like a freaking hour and a half ago. Lay the fuck down. Okay. Sit there and lay there and do nothing until I make a video, and you want to walk all over the place and just, I'm gonna walk over here and scratch my shit, and I'm gonna walk over here and scratch my shit. He does that while people try to have conversations too. Never while it would otherwise be perfectly fine. Nope. You're a stubborn old dog, aren't you? Wonder where he gets that from. Anyways. So, where was I? Somewhere around a lot of dicks. Oh yeah, the Catholic Church. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Well, there's another Kenya tree just floating. I think the clownfish must be ripping them off the rocks or something. There's 2 Kenya trees floating around. Anyways. Where the hell is my Acropora? Okay. The Acropora is blending into the rose bubble that's in the back in the pot. I was just about to take the damn pot out of that tank, and then the rose bubble moved into it. I always wanted to see if they liked pots. Apparently they do. Bunch of potheads. But anyways. So it's knowledge that the Catholics were bad, and even a bunch of the Protestants were bad. You know. Inquisition and the sale of witch trials. And, it's knowledge that colonialism was bad. Slavery was bad. These are facts. I don't disagree with them. But it's just knowledge. It's not wisdom. Taken individually, they are inadequate to the task of providing perspective. Because before 500 years ago, what existed before the remnants of Europe was, first of all, an entirely different version of Christianity that was matriarchal. And then you had a massive conquering fucking horde that had basically been destroying civilization for several thousand years. Um, over the past 1,000 years before 500 years ago, they had basically finished the job. All but. And all that was left was Europe. And not a lot of Europe, just a little bit of Europe. And this is the time of the Horde. They're called the Horde because they're the fucking Horde. And most people think the Horde is centered around Mongolia when they don't realize that Genghis Khan worked for the Siberian Khanate. And that's why, if you just compare the maps, fast forward from 500 years ago to 100 years ago, and the Horde and the Soviet Union are the same place. And basically, you had a group of people who carried the matriarchal tradition of the Alexandrite Christian Church that was in North Africa, Egypt, and most of the Middle East, into Europe, and they were called the Templars. And about 800 years ago, they were all killed. Not by the Horde, by the locals. Or the people that are there now, or were there after, when they were dead, basically. I'm not bitter. Now, Christianity is largely based upon the Catholic Church and the King James Bible. But while the Catholic Church may predate this period, it's called a Reconstruction period, and the Second Reformation period. But suffice to say, you're not gonna find the deep mysteries of what's hidden in the Catholic Church's vaults on a Discovery Channel documentary. Oh, come on, where'd it go? Getting over it in 5, 4, 3, 2. Fucking piece of cyano broke off, and I was gonna try to siphon it out right quick. Red tide. Ah. I'm losing a couple battles here, but not too many. I still don't know what the hell to do with the Z. I'm fucking 2-gallon for them. At least then I know they won't be blown away somewhere else. I just don't know if they're going to do well enough in there. But the back wall is not looking pretty, and they're just kind of getting blotted out by all the bullshit. Anyways. So, basically, it seems that around 500 years ago, the Reformation or reconstructions of European religion was sort of a peace deal. It was a compromise. Because after that, you see just before that, obviously, you have the Templar genocide. And then you have the Empire of Wealth, replacing what used to be the Empire of Peace. That was replaced by an Empire of Conquest. Well, a couple of empires of conquest. And like those empires before, this empire of commerce, this empire of wealth, encompassed the world. But you see, we had willing local people who had, before this time, been taken over by the Horde. Okay? And look at a map before the colonial period and show me a place that wasn't taken over by the Horde, or at the very least being pillaged by Barbarian pirates. Well, you can see why these people, if you just look at the context of what the fuck was going on then and in the previous 100, 200 years, why they would have done business with a bunch of white people on boats. And generally speaking, it had to do with them helping that group of people, that city, state, country, whatever, fend off the Horde. And in a lot of ways, it was kind of like a unknowing reestablishment of Magdalenian or Proto-Roman rule. Okay. I'm not going to smoke the whole thing. I'm not going to smoke the whole thing. Should probably put it out now, but I just don't want to. But anyways, so basically, wisdom gives you an obvious interpretation to the macro effects of history. You have a predominantly dual sex society in which about 2,400, 2,500 years ago, you had some male city-states towards the east declare war on the female-dominated city-states and obliterate them. And then you had those male-dominated city-states war with Persia for a while. And then Attila came. How'd that go for everyone? I remember him. Yeah. Sweet, sweet boy. Not so much. Most people don't know who was first, Attila the Hun or Genghis Khan. Well, let's see, Attila the Hun was killing lots of Christians. And then Genghis Khan was killing lots of Christians. And then Stalin was killing lots of Christians. Who are we talking about again? Oh yeah, Khrushchev. No, wait. He just made a bunch of fake Christians. And then he sent them to basically be trainers and funders of the televangelist movement. Now, where'd they learn to do something like that? Where did the Soviets learn to set up villages that look just like American villages to train people to come to America? Set up a whole village, and this is the CIA's reporting. This is not me remembering something. I can see why someone might be skeptical about that. I think it's amusing because that's just the result of your brainwashing. But, you know, parents often find children amusing. Not many people even think is the reason why all the history books, maps grayed out on top because the fucking polar ice caps were right there or something? Nobody noticed during the fucking Cold War that the place that would become the Soviet Union just seemed to be not taught about very much. So it looks like those people they trained in those towns are pretty effective. if they could give us fucking glaucoma on a map. Whole towns. American driver's licenses, American road signs, American stores, American products. A simulated American micro-universe. Do you think they were training janitors? They were training people to run cities and businesses, to run religions and cultural organizations. And they all came here. Where did they learn that? Do you think there was just some clever person 100 years ago who just made that shit up all of a sudden? Well, if you find out, because you Googled it, and you get some Wikipedia entry that has the person's name who was the origin of that strategy in the Soviet Union, you have knowledge, perhaps, but you do not have wisdom. Because wisdom is what? The ability to call bullshit on something, right? Wisdom is the ability to hold in a piss for half an hour because you're trying to make a point. Oh. I had a specific theme I was trying to call bullshit on, and I forgot what it was. I know about what it had to do with. I just interrupted my speech rhythm from lack of a cigarette. Really needing to fucking go to the. Hold on, y'all. This is gonna get muted for a minute here. like fucking Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own. So anyways, oh fuck, the factoid, if you search for when that strategy got started. Okay, the strategy of basically breeding your infiltrators in a fake environment. The strategy of sending people to teach false religion and false history for the purposes of dividing hell with them. Okay, I think we're back. Jeez. So, the factoid would tell you that these strategies were by Sergei Makoinovich or whatever in 1938 or what, something like that, right? And if you memorize that fact or you repaired it back to somebody, you might have knowledge, but you don't have wisdom. Historians lie. Generally speaking, cartographers don't. It's just a lot harder to put a line on a map where it doesn't belong than it is to put a sentence in a book. People get pissed off about lines on maps. Pretty blatantly, pretty obviously. They'll tell you where it belongs then, and they'll make a note of it. And it usually gets recorded to a fairly high degree of accuracy. But what never gets recorded to any reliable degree of accuracy is why that line moved to begin with. Because chances are the people who are going to decide how it's recorded, they might be, I'm sure you're preempting me. Most people would be preempting me. Oh, it's the victor, right? Not necessarily. Sometimes it's the victor, yes. Sometimes it's the one who moves the line. But what if that line is being moved from outside influence? Then who gets to write the history? The people on the ground who had been propagandized against each other? They're not writing the history. They're not even writing their own present. Like America or most places at this point. Clueless. But if you look at the history of what certain entities and individuals have been known to have done in the past from those same areas, you find the same exact strategies playing out not just over centuries and reconnecting and buffering. Every damn buffering, every damn buffering, every damn buffering. And we're back. Okay. So for not just centuries, but for thousands of years, those same strategies have been employed from the same places, by the same families, if you will, by the same houses, by the same mentalities, by the same cultures, by the same ideologies, by the same something. You don't necessarily have to know what it is to know that it's something. All of the above. So consider, is the knowledge that you gain from, oh, I've realized that there is this strategy. I realize it's being set against us now. I want to know how far back it goes. I read Wikipedia says it was this Sergei fucking Guselev or whatever his name in 1920 something, 50 something, whatever. You'd have knowledge. That knowledge would be fucking useless. So good to see you again. We missed you. Gotta give you a hard time. Every day I'm buffering. Every day I'm buffering. Every day I'm buffering. Okay. I'm gonna try not to get into Rick Ross mode. I don't have nearly enough to smoke for that. Anyways. Oh, that other half of the cigarette is just looking so good. Oh, short motherfuckers. Oh, that's just pitiful. I'm gonna light this one. Yeah, I'd wager you weren't the only one who felt that, Max, right before it happened. Very interesting. Oh. So then if you had a multicultural society existing from basically Europe to the Middle East, all across North Africa, and it had many female-dominated city-states. It had many female-dominated lordships. It had many houses that changed hands between male and female rule. And then you had these people from this same area who had been using these same tactics over these centuries. And they all happen to be chauvinist. They all kept slaves of women, of children, and their enemies. Power was its own justification. Right means might, or whatever. Might means right. Okay. Why I oughta. So at the point where those various long series of chauvinists who had employed these same tactics over thousands of years had surrounded and destroyed most of this area. And at that point, yes, an earthquake would be much more satisfying than a cigarette. The Google Me Too thing is fucking staged. There's some real people with real problems involved in it, but most of those people's stories are fake. Most of those people participating in the protest are just they. I guess the wildfires weren't enough for them. Weren't timed specifically enough, were they? Is it working right now or not? Showing, and your chat just came up, but it's saying reconnecting and swirling, right? It's trying to hypnotize me. It's funny how I'm correct enough about so many things that they would fuck with me so bad. Yet they don't realize that I'm also correct about how much they're going to suffer for it. And their children and their children's children. And let's see, all I would have to do is sacrifice something. And then a wave of fucking destruction would befall them. I would really like to continue this broadcast. Sorry. I cannot.